What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs and another video about home prices. I just did a series on where you could live to save some money in retirement, but I guess it was for anyone looking to live with a lower cost of living, I guess. I included the average rent prices for each town that was in the video, and I got a buttload of comments and emails from people wanting the home prices for each place as well. So our next series would be on affordable towns to buy homes or land in each state. Before we get into those lists, I thought we could list every state by the average home price. That seems to be something a lot of people are curious about. Now remember, these stats and numbers are from just before the pandemic really got rolling. It was from March of 2020, so they might be a little weird in the coming years. All right, let's see what the typical home price is in each state. Part 2. Number 25, Maine. If you've ever been to Maine and right now you're finding out that the Pine Tree State is middle of the road when it comes to the typical home price, I'm sure it makes you feel like you know something most people don't know. Here it is. Maine is a great state and it's not terribly expensive. Sure, it has its spots, but on average, the home prices here are sort of low, especially for what you're getting there. Great stats across the board other than weather. They get some brutal winters, but it's a nice state. The typical home in Maine goes for $242,316. 24. Wyoming. The Cowboy State is a landlocked state in the western United States that's ranked 50th in population with just under 600,000 residents. That's the entire state. They have less than 600,000 residents. You'd think, with all that open land, it would be cheaper, but it's not. It's kind of higher than I expected it to be. The typical home in Wyoming goes for $245,890. Number 23, Florida. Florida is expensive as long as you stay near the coast, but not many people realize how backwoods it gets a dozen or so miles inland. The only thing most people see about Florida is the beaches and the beautiful warm weather and the ocean, stuff like that, and Disney World. You don't get to see those little backwood places that nobody goes to. Florida has a lot of those places. The typical home goes for $245,369 in the Sunshine State. 22. Vermont. This is another one I thought would have a higher price tag. Vermont has great stats in every single category. The Green Mountain State always has low crime, low poverty levels, good schools, things to do. So it's kind of surprising that the typical home here only goes for $254,937. 21. Connecticut. Connecticut is a strange state. They have a few very, very wealthy zip codes and then a whole bunch of zip codes that are under or flirting with the poverty line. This helps keep the typical home price on the lower end. The typical home in Connecticut goes for $254,555. Number 20, Delaware. The first state, as it's called, is a small state that gives us some big people. Henry Heimlich, Aubrey Plaza, President-elect Joe Biden, to name a few. A lot of famous people came out of Delaware. What's weird is most of them are politicians. What isn't big in Delaware is home prices. The typical home goes for $255,108. 19. Minnesota. The North Star State is one of our coldest states. If you can get past that, it's a decent state to buy a home and live comfortably. Minnesota doesn't have many rundown places, and they still on average have decent priced homes. The typical home goes for $256,857. Number 18, Arizona. Now we make a complete 180 as far as weather goes and take a look at the Grand Canyon State, Arizona. Arizona has decent price homes. This is one of those states that's been the go-to state for a lot of the retirement crowd for some time now. It's like Florida for snowbirds that are freaked out by hurricanes and people that date first cousins. The typical home in Arizona goes for $264,785. 17. Montana. Montana, or as I like to call it, Next Idaho, has been seeing an influx of people in the last handful of years. The California crowd has its eyes set on Big Sky Country, and the prices have been rising a little faster than similar states in the last decade or so. Prices are still what most would consider mid-ranged, but they're climbing. The typical house goes for $277,789. 16. Virginia. Virginia, outside a couple of the metro areas, has very reasonably priced homes. This is a beautiful state all around, but even more so when you get out on the country roads. If you like the outdoor lifestyle, Virginia is a great place to look at. Typical home goes for $284,629. Number 15. New Hampshire. The The Granite State comes in at 15 and gets us above the national average for home prices, which is $285,000. New Hampshire is one of the better states in New England, and I would have thought it would have been a little more expensive than this. Actually, I thought it would have been a lot more expensive. I could have swore I would have guessed New Hampshire would be around number 8, 9, or 10, but they're at 15. Typical home in New Hampshire goes for $287,163. Number 14, Idaho. The Gem State has been a landing spot for disgruntled Californians for about a decade and a half now. They have beautiful land, low cost of living, low crime, low housing prices. What's not to love about Idaho? The typical home goes for $289,982 in Idaho. Number 13, Rhode Island. It's just Rhode Island now. Up until last week, its official name was Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. It has this whole pre-Civil War sound to it, doesn't it? Not the greatest name to have these days, I guess. Anyway, they dropped the plantation part in this election we just had, the 2020 election, and now it's just Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a little high on the cost of living stats, but other than Providence, they have next to no crime, so it's almost like you're paying for safety. It's a nice state. It's a little small, obviously, but it's a nice state to live. The typical home goes for $298,718. Number 12, Alaska. Stepping outside the contiguous United States, we have the last frontier state, Alaska. Alaska is our largest state and it has one of the smallest populations. Just over 700,000 residents live in the land of moose and squirrel. Alaska has a high cost of living and home prices are heading that direction these days. The typical house goes for $299,989. Yeah, just under $300,000. Number 11, Nevada. Going over the 300,000 mark, we have the Silver State, Nevada. I can't believe they aren't cheaper. Outside of Vegas and Reno, the state looks like the surface of the moon, just hotter. I wonder how much homes on the moon would go for. I'll look that up on Zillow, see if they got anything there for me. Love to get a place near Clavius. The typical home in Nevada goes for $301,753. Number 10, Maryland. Maryland is known as the Old Line State and the Free State. Outside of the Mid-Atlantic region, if you were to ask someone to name two cities in Maryland, they will look at you and say Baltimore and, I don't know. Maryland is a very nice state outside of Baltimore. It has a lot of history, and the state flower is called a black-eyed Susan, which, I don't know. I think they should probably have to change that name, shouldn't they? Doesn't sound right. Black-eyed Susan. Typical home goes for $308,040. Yeah, this mid-Atlantic area gets a little expensive. Number 9, New York. The Empire State isn't in the top 2 or 3. Mind blown. Here's the thing. They have New York City, and it is insanely expensive for everything, not just homes. But the rest of the state, in most places, is reasonable and a nice place to live. It's just New York raises that average so much, it kind of throws the whole state out of whack. The typical home in New York goes for $321,934. Number 8, New Jersey. I find it hard to believe New Jersey is expensive in anything other than spray tan, hair products, and bail bonds. You know, the most used products in the state? Outside of Trenton and Newark and places like that, it's actually a good-looking state. A lot of great small towns, beautiful land, just their cities sometimes tend to suck. The typical home goes for $335,607. Number 7, Utah. The Beehive State comes in at number 7. This is a perfect example of what good stats will do for you. Utah has good schools, low crime, low poverty, nice weather, and a decent cost of living. This makes it a very desirable place to live, even though outside of some of the national parks and some of their mountains, the state is basically dirt and rocks and kind of, I don't know, ugly. I'm not a desert guy, but yeah. They do have some mountains, so stop typing. I know they got some mountains and trees and things like that, but a majority of the state's just like dirt and rocks. The typical home in Utah goes for $348,376. Number 6, Oregon. The Beaver State was once considered one of the cheaper states to move to. The 90s ended, and so did that reputation. People still complain about the prices going up here in Portland and Oregon in general. Like last month they were paying $210 a month for a 1-bedroom. Now they're paying $1,300. It's been 20 years. Let it go, everyone. The typical home goes for $361,870 in the Beaver State. Number 5, Colorado. Everything I said about Oregon, it's the same in Colorado, just they have way bigger mountains. And the typical home goes for $397,820. Number 4, Washington. The evergreen state is starting to get popular outside of Seattle, and it's starting to show. The average home prices have made a couple drastic jumps in the last few years. The typical home goes for $409,228. Number 3, Massachusetts. Just like New York City makes the averages go up in New York State, Boston does the same thing for Massachusetts. They just don't have as much land mass to make up the difference from Boston. The typical home price sits at $422,856 in Massachusetts. Getting up there. Number 2, California. The Golden State makes our biggest price jump as expected. The typical home in California goes for $554,886. Yeah, over $100,000 more than the number 3 on this list. And before we get to number 1, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Help the channel grow. We'd really appreciate it. All right, and on to number 1. And number 1, Hawaii. The Aloha state is expensive in every way possible. Maybe not when buying pineapple and fresh fish. You probably get a discount there. Everything else will set you back a little bit. Most of you are thinking how expensive it was that time you went to the islands and stayed on that resort and it was crazy expensive, and it's probably cheaper out when you just live there, not in a resort. Yeah, it's more expensive at the resort, but not much cheaper outside the resort in Hawaii. The typical home goes for $636,451. That will kill your bank account if you're not already loaded. All right, that's the end of part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Like I said before, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a big thumbs up, tell me what you thought in the comment section below. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.